For this video to make complete sense, you need to go to my website, gabrielchana.com, and click on my link entitled Revelation 11:7. Jesus appears, beats up 666 Satan incarnate, Antichrist, Jesuit Zack Knight. Here's what Brent Spiner sent on March 5th, 2012 to my email. My sweet wife, I hope you are doing well. I actually miss writing to you this way. It's only been so busy these past few months dealing with all this Jesuit drama. But I'm glad to see that we've sent them back to lick their wounds for a while. I feel as though it allows me to focus on what really matters, which is my love for you. Reading my Bible lately and being in such close touch with Jesus has helped me to realize that I need to make more personal time with you and not worry so much about our enemies. We will defeat them in time, but my love for you is forever, even if you never wanted me ever again. I would still always love you. I love you on earth, and I'd love you in heaven. Wherever you are, I am, because you are me. Vladimir, too, has been busy as usual. That's referring to Vladimir Putin. He has it the hardest of us all. I know it's his immense amount of passion that keeps him going so long and so hard. Lately, he's been in touch with me more often, and we've been talking a lot about his feelings, too. As you know, he is very masculine, but also deeply sensitive when it comes to love. I suppose normally he would go to Gerard, that's Gerard Butler, about these things. But Vladimir and I go way back, and I think he considers me a much closer friend. Anyways, he confesses that although he expresses his love for you by ruling Russia and leading the war on the Jesuits every day, he's been feeling lonely, missing your touch. Even a warrior must rest his weary head at times and not forget who he fights for. I told him this, and his whole demeanor seemed to lighten up, knowing exactly what to do. He asked me to send you a private love letter. He doesn't want to post it to the forum, that's our Church of Gail forum, and get lost in the sea of the other men pining for you. I told him he will still have to contend with me, of course. But I would forward his love note to make sure the woman of his dreams got to have a private giggle over it with nobody else to see. From Vladimir, my most sexy, continue to fight the evil Jesuits and enforce conspiracy law in the earth. I impulse with my heart for your love. I have careful, diligent in my manhood watch over you to personally protect my love from all evils. I judo chop the necks of thousands of Jesuits outside of Walmart after they have harassed you at work. By the way, I do get harassed by Jesuits at my job, and they are very evil. Jesuits have a satanic obsession with me, and I will tell you why in the second half of this video. Why I do this? Simple, yes, no, love. I want to give you pearl necklace. You like it on you? And then Vladimir states that I'm in his sexual dreams. I'm helping out his English. And then he signed it, Vladimir Putin. And Brent Spiner continues, his words are still clumsy as usual, but they are rather cute. He says you can still read it on YouTube if you want to. It doesn't have to be that secret, but he just wanted to go over the other guys and make sure you know how special you are to him. I told him I am glad to be of service. Anyways, stay safe, my sweetheart. Your husband, Brent Spiner. When the Sadducees asked Jesus which wife a man would have in heaven if he had 7 wives, because each of his wives died and that man remarried 7 times, Jesus answered in Matthew 22:29 and 30, Ye do err, not knowing the scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are as the angels of God in heaven. So how do we reconcile this with what Jesus told us in our church service, that there would be much sex in heaven? First off, Jesus did not say in Matthew 22:29 and 30 that there would be no sex in heaven. He just said there would be no marriage in heaven. This leads to speculation that sex will take on a different aspect in heaven, and that the concept of marriage as we know it on earth may be redefined somehow in heaven. But knowing the character of God, the sex in heaven will not be dirty but glorious and holy. Also, we need to differentiate heaven from Christ's millennial reign, because they are not the same. Jesus made it clear during his visit with us that he will love me sexually during the millennial reign. For his exact words, go to my website, gabrielchana.com/church.html. That's GABRIELLECHANA.com/church, CHURCH.html, and go to my video section for my video entitled The Bride of Christ. Because Jesus stated he will love me sexually in the millennium, this indicates I will be his wife in the millennium. Though the Bible is not clear that Jesus will have a physical wife, it is not clear that he will not have a physical wife either. I do not believe he was married when he came during his first coming when he died on the cross. Nothing in Scripture indicates that Jesus was married in his first coming to earth. Because Isaac is a type of Christ in the Bible, and Isaac married very late, I think this is a Bible hint that Jesus Christ will have a long wait for his bride. Yes, the Bible teaches that the church is his bride, but this does not preclude the possibility that Christ will also have a literal physical bride that he can have sex with in the millennium. If I am that bride, and I do have a very unusual genetic profile, 50% King David and 60% Catherine the Great, with a 10% overlap between the two, that makes me appear predestined for something unusual. It only makes sense that I, the literal flesh bride of Christ, would go up with his bride, the church, at the time of the rapture. God the Father would time my existence so that it would happen this way, so that God's grand plan would work out to perfection. Guess what happens after the rapture? You got it. The marriage supper of the Lamb, or the wedding of Jesus Christ to his bride, the church. And maybe his bride, his literal physical wife at the same time. And then after Christ marries his bride, starts the millennial reign of Christ. Christ marries his bride right before his second coming. See Revelation 19:7-21. When he goes down with his saints to destroy the beast and his forces at the Battle of Armageddon. And all of us born-again Christians will be in that army, and then starts the millennial reign of Christ. Of course, Satan, who knows more about the Bible and prophecy than any of us, has known from the beginning that I am the physical bride of Christ, which explains his obsession over my love life and the men on my marriage list. This explains all the devil brides Satan has chosen for my men. Laurie McBride for Brent Spiner, Camila Alves for Matthew McConaughey, Ludmila Putin for Vladimir Putin, etc. This explains why the Antichrist is so obsessed over having my babies, because he knows that I am the bride of Christ, and Satan always opposes Jesus Christ. I think, besides using me to help him prepare the world for the upcoming tribulation, Jesus has also made appearances because he doesn't have long to wait before I am his. When you consider that he has waited thousands of years, what is another 20 or 30 to him? I've determined that one of the biggest reasons Jesus has showed up and done all these miracles is because he has come to court his future bride. He's dating me right now, and like he said, when he marries me in the millennium, he will have a sexual relationship with me. To find out what his exact words were, go to my website, Gabriel Chana, GABRIELLECHANA.com/church.html, and look at the section called The Bride of Christ in my videos section. I'm counting the days. I was predestined to be his bride, so it's no wonder that when he showed up and talked to me, I liked him as a man and lover on the spot. I'm sure the feelings are reciprocated, as God the Father created me just for him. God the Father makes no mistakes. Jesus, who knows us all down to our very core, sized me up and determined he really liked me and probably thought how clever his Father was in creating me just for him. I think Jesus is licking his chops right now. He's salivating for his bride. I figured this out because did you notice how personable he was with us? It was like he was flirting with me. I'm still in awe over his visit and more in awe because I think I know the main reason he came. Do you remember how he kept emphasizing that I am more important than I know? That's because I am his future bride, and I was predestined to be his bride by God the Father. The church is his spiritual bride, and I am his physical bride for his millennial reign. I'm not sure what will happen to my marriage to Jesus after the millennium, but knowing God, whatever happens, it will be good. Jesus, when he showed up at our church service, asked me 3 times, like he did Peter, if I loved him. In the Gospels, when Jesus asked this of Peter, he did so realizing that in the future, Peter would give his life as a martyr for Jesus Christ. In a sense, I am a type of martyr because I have to continually deal with the Antichrist, Zack Knight, who is obsessed with me because I am the future bride of Christ, and who has the power to break into our brain-to-brain servers and talk with me telepathically, posing as Jesus Christ to my mind. He has already tricked me telepathically and impregnated me with his black devil semen, but thank God Jesus aborted all the babies. And I must tell you, he pulled a sly one on me within the past 24 hours. His latest strategy has been to gradually break into my mind so that in between valid brain-to-brain communications to my mind from Brent Spiner, he also posed as Brent Spiner, so I literally had 2 Brent Spiners talking to my brain. One was the real Brent Spiner, and the other was the Antichrist Zack Knight posing as Brent Spiner. You see, Jesus told me that he would only communicate with me through Brent Spiner, and that I should not trust any voice in my mind that claims to be Jesus. So that sly Zack Knight has been posing as Jesus Christ talking to me through Brent Spiner. So how did I figure this out? Well, I didn't right away because that Zack Knight is a genius and can fool anybody. As you know, Vladimir Putin just won the Russian presidency. I searched online to see what the Jesuits were writing about Vladimir, as they always publish and promote lies about him to the Jesuit-controlled press, and noticed a video and photos of Vladimir voting for himself as Russian president with his wife Ludmila by his side. I asked Jesus why Vladimir was doing this. I talk to Jesus in my prayers and often allow him to answer me through Brent Spiner in my brain-to-brain communication. Well, Jesus told me through Brent that he instructed Vladimir to vote with Ludmila in order to protect me from the Jesuits, that it was necessary to keep up this charade of Ludmila as Vladimir's wife to protect me from Jesuit targeting. I then countered with the Lord with God, this means you endorse lying. That doesn't sound like you. Jesus then said it was a case of using wisdom, and that this type of lying was sort of like Rahab with the spies, where she lied and said that she didn't know where the Israelites were. That's when Joshua was coming into the land of Canaan to conquer it for Israel. That she didn't know where the Israelites were in order to protect them. So I let it go at that, but told Vladimir brain to brain that this type of behavior makes him seem a sissy, and I don't like sissies, but that I respected Jesus and Vladimir's desire to protect me, but that I'd respect Vladimir more if he was more honest and forthright about his love life and his marriage. I got no answers because Vladimir's actually married to me. He's not gone to bed with Ludmila Putin. I got no answers from Vladimir brain to brain on this one. Jesus, through Brent, then told me to trust him on this, that he was the one who told Vladimir to appear with Ludmila in public as Vladimir cast his vote in the Russian presidential elections. So I said, okay, Jesus, though it didn't make complete sense to me, and I let it go. After I figured out that the main reason Jesus appeared to talk to me at our church service when he rescued us all from Satan and Zack Knight, and then more intimately with Brent Spiner and Judge Terrance and I through Skype about a week later, I figured out he made all these appearances to court me as his future wife. Brent then informed me that Jesus was in tears, that it moved him so much that I figured out that this was his main reason for making personal appearances on earth now. That I figured out he came here to court me, and he was just in tears that I figured out he was here to court his future millennial wife. Brent said he couldn't believe how much Jesus was crying over this, that apparently it really moved him that I figured this out. Brent told me brain to brain right before bedtime that Jesus wanted me to make a video about how his main reason for showing up in personal appearances at our church and elsewhere was to court me, his future bride. But I told Brent I needed to sleep because it was 5 in the morning and I'd do it tomorrow. When I woke up this morning, because I went to bed so late, I really didn't feel like making a video. And Jesus, through Brent, told me it was just a test to see if I was willing to obey Jesus in everything, kind of like how Satan tested Job, and that I passed the test because I was willing to make the video even though I was tired, and so now I didn't have to do it. That I could just relax and take it easy and not worry about it. Then Jesus overpowered me with sexual desire, and I felt an overwhelming desire to make love to him. Brent told me Jesus was still crying because I brilliantly figured out the main reason he has been making appearances, and that is to court me, his future millennial bride. I had this overwhelming desire to make love to Jesus, but remembered how Zack Knight tricked me before and jumped into my Bible to read it first before I proceeded with any brain-to-brain loving, because Zack Knight can impregnate telepathically through brain-to-brain loving. Lo and behold, as I read the King James Bible, the desire to love Jesus went away. My suspicious antennas went up, and I begged Jesus in prayer to not allow Zack Knight to trick me again. I read several chapters in the King James Bible in Jeremiah, and just happened to land on the verses in John where Peter denied the Lord 3 times and then the cock crowed. The Lord was telling me through this passage about Peter denying the Lord that I needed to make this video and not worry about whether the world labels me as crazy, that he needs me to make this video, and that if I don't, it would be the same as denying him like Peter did. Because if I don't make the video, it's because I'm scared of public opinion or censure or death like Peter was when he denied the Lord as the Lord was about to go to the cross. I love my Jesus, and that's why I'm making this video for him. I will be like John, the Apostle John, who stood by his Lord at the cross, and not like Peter, who denied him when Jesus was about to bear his cross. The Lord showed me through Bible verses I read and through the real Brent, who was finally able to break through in brain-to-brain communications, that Zack Knight was trying to seduce me again, and that I must not give in to this desire to make love to Jesus. Instead, I channeled my sexual desires into lovemaking with Brent Spiner alone. But Zack blocked my sexual communications with Brent, and I could not make brain-to-brain loving with the real Brent, so I finally gave up. But the real Brent broke through with words and told me that Jesus was furious with Zack Knight and was beating him up again because Zack tried to trick me again. He also told me that it was a Vladimir Putin clone who appeared with Ludmila Putin in the voting booth videos with video that made it into internet news, that the real Vladimir did not vote with Jesuit Ludmila Putin by his side. I also suspect that Vladimir Putin is using his clone to make public appearances, and apparently this clone has betrayed him. In other words, that picture of Vladimir Putin crying on the news when he got voted Russian president, I think that was a Vladimir Putin clone. Vladimir Putin is using his clone to make public appearances to avoid being assassinated, so that his clone would be assassinated instead of him. Vladimir Putin has several clones, I believe, just like most of us do. Anyways, let's get back onto the subject. So the real Vladimir did not vote with Jesuit Ludmila Putin by his side, and that the real Vladimir was quite upset that his clone did this to him. Brent also informed me that Jesus has not been crying over the fact that I figured out that his main reason for coming to Earth to make all these miraculous appearances was to court me, his future bride, because in his foreknowledge he always knew I'd figure it out. Jesus told Brent that if he would cry over anything, it would be that he has allowed Zack Knight, the Antichrist, to impersonate Jesus to me, and that Jesus has to wait until the Battle of Armageddon to throw the beast, Zack Knight, into the lake of fire and brimstone. That Jesus is allowing that creep, Zack Knight, to impersonate Jesus to help out his future tribulation saints, because I make videos about my experiences with him. Zack Knight is the Antichrist. Jesus told us that when he visited our church. I'm going to tell you something. That Zack Knight is brilliant, and if I didn't read the Bible before I made love to him, he would have impregnated me again. His sexual pull on me was overwhelming. My Bible reading saved me from his trickery. His sexual pull feels like a beautiful, overwhelming passion that must be met. It does not seem evil. And so this Zack Knight is a genius at imitating Jesus Christ, and not to be underestimated. I will always, always read the King James Bible first before I do any brain-to-brain loving with anyone. Because Zack Knight is the Antichrist and strives to be Jesus Christ, he also strives to have me, the future millennial bride of Jesus Christ, in his bed to have his devil babies. Brent told me, by the way, that Jesus does want me to make a video about all this, and that Zack lied to me when he stated that Jesus does not care if I make a video about this. Apparently that was the real Jesus speaking through Brent last night, who told me to make a video for Jesus about how I am Jesus's future bride, and how Zack Knight, the Antichrist, tries to steal me away from Jesus. And these are the main events coming up on our calendar, folks. The next big event is the rapture of the church, which I think is going to be within a couple years. After this, up in heaven for 7 years will be the judgment seat of Christ, where Christians will get their rewards if they have any. And then right after this, the marriage of Christ to his bride. While all this is going on in heaven, down on earth will be the tribulation with the Antichrist Zack Knight reigning over the earth. After Christ marries his bride, we all go down with him to beat up Zack Knight and his forces at the Battle of Armageddon. And the UFOs will be on Zack Knight's side. Those are the fallen angels. You know, when Satan fell, he took a third of the angels with him. I think those are all the UFOs flying around. Once we beat up that bastard Zack Knight, then starts the 1,000-year reign of Christ over the earth, with me as his physical bride. At the end of the 1,000-year reign, Satan will be loosed again, and will get some followers, but will be defeated once and for all, and locked up forever in the lake of fire. And then starts eternity with Jesus Christ, reigning over the universe, and all of us reproducing and multiplying into the heavens.